Welcome to the class on political theory, and today's topic is liberty. This concept of liberty is basically multidimensional. It has certain cognate concepts like right, equality, justice, and so on. Liberty basically means absence of hindrances to our thinking, expression, movement, choice, perception, and self dignity. Essentially, the concept of liberty carries three connotations: absence of constraints, number two, the notion of choice, and number three, existence of conditions actualizing the choice. There is some distinction between, not universally followed, but some theorists do, between liberty and freedom, though they are more or less synonymously used in popular usage. The Maurice Canstron, for example, is of the view that liberty tends to be used in legal and political senses and context, and freedom in philosophical and more general context. Others like Pitkin suggest that liberty is more plural, whereas freedom is more holistic.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Sir, can you please explain how is liberty more plural and freedom more holistic, sir?
Well, it's a good question. The meaning, basically, what I mean to say, and what the Pitkin and others said, when they say that liberty is more plural, means that there are more than one senses in which liberty could be discussed and understood. And when it is said that freedom is holistic, in the sense that the canvas of freedom, the understanding of freedom, cannot be partial. It is holistic, covering the total human experience in society. I think it is clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, there are different connotations also, that between the difference between the ancient connotation of liberty and the modern conception of liberty. The ancient conception of liberty, for example, as in the Greece, as we find, Greek political history, that they, and for that matter, Plato and Aristotle, and in their writings we find that when they use the word liberty and they mean liberty, that is basically in connection with their meeting of the assemblies of the polis, the city state, in which debates going on and public discussions take place. And the modern concept of liberty is basically a pursuit of the struggle of human spirit to liberate itself from private interest, or sometimes pursuit of private interest as against the constant exercised by the public authority or the state. So this is the basic difference between what the ancient thought about liberty and the moderns think about liberty. The change in the idea of liberty takes place through the growth of nation state, because you know, as student of history also, that the nation state was not there all before. It emerged in the context of reformation, in the context of the struggle of, or the birth pangs of capitalism and liberalism. So in that context, more or less, in the 15th, 16th century, gradually the concept of nation state emerged. And in that, when these things were going on in the political life of Western Europe and also in the world of human thought in those countries, now liberty had its birth, in a sense, the total concept, modern concept of liberty. And it got further impetus in the 18th century with the American War of Independence, when the new American Constitution declared liberty as one of the self-evident truths which have been stated in the preamble to the constitutions of the United States of America. So this is one kind of distinction that we can make, and the conceptual connotations we can note. In modern times, uh, Professor Harold Lasky is a quite eminent authority on the political discussions and theoretical principles. So he, in his Grammar of Politics, I quote him, and that will be better, that by liberty I mean the eager maintenance of that atmosphere in which men have the opportunity to be their best selves. This is his statement. That is, fulfillment of human personality is the possible only when an atmosphere congenial to this could be built up. So, eager maintenance of the uh, atmosphere congenial to the growth of liberty, by this Harold Lasky means that it is basically societal. It is not something very abstract. How the social and economic conditions are built, reformed, organized, on that depends to a large extent, according to Lasky, the nature and extent of liberty which will be available to the citizens of a country. He also emphasizes the point that by liberty is definitely it is not meant only absence of restraint. There is some sort of a positive aspect to the meaning of liberty also, in which the liberty becomes the profession or the commitment of a free man, because it is comprises the whole personality of harmonious living with other free men in society. Lasky makes another important point in this connection when he discusses liberty. He says that liberty can never coexist with special privileges. These two are contradictory, because special privilege, if there is in any society, in any social context or political atmosphere, there is absolutely no question of citizens enjoying liberty. Those two cannot coexist. He makes a special point about it, because it is liberty which transforms an individual from the status of a natural slave into a creative citizen. This is to be very, very important statement, and very, I think, very important way of looking at the importance of liberty. Only when liberty is given or liberty is enjoyed by the individual citizens, they can fulfill their aims of life. They can enrich their personality.
Sir, I have a question. What Lasky suggests is probably a sort of superstructure to maintain this atmosphere in which liberty can be attained. Did he suggest that?
No. Superstructure is not, I think the term is not applicable here, and he didn't use that also. Because superstructure means there is a structure and over it there is a superstructure, not that like that. He says that society's economic, social, cultural organization will be done in such a way that the individual citizen, everybody should have the necessary wherewithal to enjoy a free, creative living, so that they can enjoy their living as such. And human beings cannot enjoy life unless there is creative freedom given to them. And that is why he again says that in a special privilege of the ruler, of the ruling class, these are inimical to liberty. So in that sense, it is part and parcel of a total atmosphere of living life in a civilized society.
Thank you, sir.
I think it
Yes,
is
sir.
clear.
Thank you, sir.
Now, if we go now further in the next stage of our discussions, the history of political ideas, there can be noticed three distinct traditions of liberty, discourse on liberty. First is Republican tradition, second is the liberal tradition, and the third is the Marxian tradition. So when we talk of Republican tradition, in the history of ideas I am talking of, three persons must be mentioned. First Machiavelli, then Rousseau, and third in our own time, Hannah Arendt. Now Machiavelli has been wrongly interpreted by many people, and there is a popular idea that Machiavelli means scheming, conspiracy, etc., etc. But exactly that is not the point. Basically, as a political philosopher, Machiavelli is the first person or first political theorist who made it a point that citizens must have their legal obligations, and the obligation to others, the fellow citizens. And in that way, he offered some sort of an idea which was later developed in the 17th century Western Europe, more specifically in Britain, in which there was the Civil War, and Thomas Hobbes, he defined liberty in one way which was rejected by a very eminent critic of our time, political philosopher, Quinton Skinner, who says that liberty is an expression of natural freedom, which was ignored by Thomas Hobbes. Because Thomas Hobbes has other agenda in building up his own theory in his book Leviathan, you know. So next we come to Rousseau, and here it is all the time very confusion prevailing among all the readers of Rousseau philosophy because of the particular paradox that he used in his social contract discussions. He said that the sovereignty should lie with the general will, capital G and capital W. What is the general will? By definition, he says, general will is the will of the community devoid of any narrow selfish interest. So by definition, general will cannot do any wrong. So by definition, everybody will be benefited in the community if we make general will the supreme thing, or general will enjoy sovereignty. But there is a paradox hidden in its statement. What is the general will? Nobody can define. It is given to the definition that it is ipso facto. It is something, some sort of a will of the community where there is no iota of selfishness. And secondly, this community meeting in a place to decide or take decisions regarding governance are by definition, according to Rousseau, are all equal. Now, are all equal is a very philosophical standpoint, because we know that all humans are not equal by any sense. But in a moral, spiritual sense, if you can say that we are all equals, in the sense that there is an acceptance, philosophical acceptance, that there is an intrinsic capability of all humans to improve them. But unless and until they improve and they come to a position or level equal among themselves, Rousseauist sophistication is not applicable. So Rousseau's this extreme philosophical or spiritual republicanism or moral standpoint is not that very helpful to the posterity or to the student of political philosophy as such, but it always remains as a beacon light of freedom. Basically freedom, the larger concept, that is more pertinent to Rousseau's discussion here. And when we come to Hannah Arendt, she was basically an Austrian, influenced by the German philosophical tradition of middle of the 20th century, and then she was a victim, like many people, of Nazi torture and regimentation. So she fled Europe and came to United States, and then her creative political thinking started. And Hannah Arendt must be mentioned in our time discussion. To her, freedom appears to be a larger concept than liberty, and she emphasizes the distinction between liberation and freedom. Liberation is the absence of restraint on the individual's right to life, liberty and property, and freedom needs a republican polity for its enjoyment by the people. So this is what we say, the Republican tradition of the understanding of liberty. When you come to the liberal tradition, we find that liberty here, the most important person to be discussed and to be understood is John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill ideas cannot be appreciated unless we make a slight reference to his life, the points revealed in his autobiography, that he was brought up by his father, James Mill, in a totally 100% regimented way. So when his father died, in his autobiography, John Stuart Mill has said that for the first time, I became a person. Otherwise, I was more or less a machine. From early morning till late night, I had all duties defined by the father and dictated by father, what to read, what to not to read, etc., etc. So anyway, in his mature years, John Stuart Mill wrote a long essay which became a very famous document in the history of political ideas, that is On Liberty. In the year it was published, 1859. Now in that essay, I think the entire liberal tradition of liberty has been best represented or best summarized or best interpreted. Mill's views on liberty are based on an understanding of utility, because he inherited that philosophical school from Bentham and his father James Mill, utilitarianism. That is, everything including ideas are to be accepted or rejected on the criterion whether they have got any utility. So from that point of view, James Stuart Mill labored to show that liberty, even as a philosophical concept, and liberty as a principle of social life and its organization, must have its utility. Otherwise, why should we have liberty? Why should we claim for liberty? So I hope you get the point.
Yes,
From utility point of view, what is the utility of liberty? He now answers. He says that liberty is an absolutely indispensable condition of individual's happiness. That's why we want liberty. It has its utility. And considers free individuality as a prerequisite for the cultivation of the self. That unless individual self, you see the reflection of his own autobiographical elements here, that he is the best person to say this because he experienced family regimentation. He believed that society would be benefited by making progress as each individual is useful in proportion to the extent that she or he differs from others. So according to Mill's conception, liberty is useful and absolutely indispensable. We can't do without it in a so-called modern progressive democratic society, because it opens the possibility of birth of a creative citizenry. So liberty for him is the principle which mediates between pleasures and pain. Another principle of utilitarianism, that which gives us pleasure, that is acceptable, which gives us pain, are to be avoided. So Mill considers that freedom or liberty valuable as an end in itself, because it gives us pleasure of enjoying life. Liberty of thought and expression is not just an individual's right to express. It is not a legal question. It is not a right, but it is an experience which we must have in order to make life meaningful. Mill defends principle of individuality against governmental interference and tyranny of the majority. This last point is very peculiar to Mill, that he was a Democrat with a condition that in democracy, in liberal democracy, there must be majority and minority because all are free, etc., etc. But he makes this proviso that majority by itself cannot enjoy 100% power. And if majority claims that since we are in majority, for the time being, we must dictate to others, to the minority, Mill says that is the end of democracy. So, if democracy in a liberal tradition is to be understood properly in its spirit, right spirit, then Mill insists that it must protect the rights of the minority also. That means not the legal right as such, but the total political atmosphere of the society in which everybody must enjoy the his opportunity of thought, free expression, free dialogue, discussions. So this is the liberal tradition. And here, most important thing, which very many times, very many regimes have forgotten, that when we do say, we do not underestimate, do not underline, but that it is necessary to underline it, that is the principle of choice. There must be alternative choice always. Well, you see, we are discussing Marxian concept of liberty, and this tradition of Marx and the Marxist is this, that they are critical of the formal freedom of bourgeois democracy, and they are not prepared to give the bourgeois democracy a full, genuine freedom as such. So, in line with the philosophical tradition of Spinoza, Rousseau, Kant, and Hegel, freedom is seen by Marx as emancipation, not liberty or freedom of the bourgeoisie. Emancipation of man to him means self-determination, and by self-determination he means that removal of all obstacles to the manifold development of human powers. And this can be achieved only by overcoming the obstacles like conditions of wage labor and other forms of exploitation by a collective enterprise of the labor. This collective effort will be socially cooperative and organized human efforts in order to achieve control over both nature and social conditions of production. And thereby Marx believed that man's alienation from nature and from the production system could be eliminated and abolished, and thereby the social classes will be abolished, and abolition of social class will enable people to enjoy full and genuine emancipation. And then I must have just a passing reference to two other schools. One is anarchism, another is feminism, in order to make the discussion on liberty, taking it right up to the modern time. The anarchist is a special school who believes in extreme liberty, extreme freedom, etc. But they basically is a point of, they stand at the point of intersection between liberalism and socialism. Half liberalism, half socialism is the mix. The feminist, on the other hand, their basic point is that the gender division in society is fundamental, which has been overlooked and neglected by the previous traditions of ideas. There is liberal feminism, socialist feminism, and radical feminism. The first two we understand easily, but the third one, the radical feminist, their point is that gender division is basically politically significant in any society, and therefore we cannot ignore it and we must have it. Now, if we come to the general sort, if we round up the discussion, what then comes the principle of liberty to be in the 20th century or at the beginning of the 21st century? Here Ernest Barker views must be mentioned, that he said that state is an association of free legal agents. That means liberty, at the beginning I say it is multidimensional. Here it is said that there is legal liberty, there is social liberty, there is economic liberty. In this way it is multidimensional. And legal liberty includes civil liberty, which is practically a catchphrase in our time. Every right to live, right to survive, right to enjoy property, right to free expression, these are all civil liberties. and everywhere in every country we have got this movement for civil liberties gaining, and thereby democracy is strengthened. We have very many times in our country, in our experience also see how civil society or civil liberty concept is being developed. The citizens as a group, they claim that they have got the right to establish their point of view, to judge every political, social, economic issues. And basically Barker concludes that liberty is not, this is very important to note for you, liberty is not the indefinite liberty of an undefined individual. It is the definite liberty of a defined personality seeking to realize specific capacities. I hope you have noted
Yes, sir.
that it is, I repeat, it is not the indefinite liberty of an undefined individual. It is the definite liberty of a defined personality which seeks to realize specific capacities. Liberty in the state, that is legal liberty, is therefore never the absolute liberty of each, but always the qualified liberty of all. Because this point was also referred in John Stuart Mill, he also said that there is some self-regarding and other-regarding liberty. Other self-regarding means which actually affects the self, but the liberty of a person goes or is acceptable only to that extent until it hampers the liberty of others.
100%.
So in this way, I think we can have a general conception of the principle of liberty, which is very important in history of political ideas.